Welcome to Better Than Yesterday. I'm here with Oliver Saunders.
What's up?
You know, I'm Adam Churchman, and pumped for today. I think I've been waiting to talk to you about this because I think that today's episode could resonate a great deal for anybody who's currently in a position of trying to change their lives.
Yeah.
And so it came from a conversation I was having. I have a buddy back home who is really working hard to improve his life, and like he's killing it.
Yeah.
But what keeps coming back is the people in his life. And so I wanted to talk to you today because, like we've referenced before, we've gone through shit.
Yeah.
The difficulty of ending unhealthy relationships. Whew.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Whether it's your friends,
That's rough.
Sometimes it's your family.
Yes.
And how we can go about doing that and ultimately come to peace with the fact that we might have to cut some people out.
Yeah, that is a very, very tricky but very important topic because it is something that anybody who is trying to change their life for whatever situation, no matter what situation it is, will have to go through this at some point.
Yeah.
And it's not only people, it could also be places. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It could also be areas or certain areas that you were doing things, And it's rough. I feel like that this is an area where it could be it could be very tricky for people because you build these relationships with people. And also, when you go through certain situations, it builds a bond with people even more.
Yes.
Whether it's a positive situation or
You've still
a negative
bonded through
situation,
something together.
right? So I know situations where I've done successful things with friends, and we're bonded because of that success, and bonded from what we went through to get to that point.
Yeah.
I've had a lot more relationships that were bonded between negativity. You know what I mean? And negative things that we did, and negative things and negative thought processes. You know what I mean? And just sort of that dog eat dog mentality when you put yourself in those type of positions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you're like you said on one of our past episodes, when you're living in a flop house, a drug house, you can't trust anybody, you can't trust anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're surrounded by people that are on the same negative thought process as you. And when you're scraping for just the last little bits or whatever, your mind is only focused on getting your next high. A lot of things go out of the window.
Right.
And you get put in situations where you do things just because of the survival of it.
Yeah.
And you find yourself, and I found myself in a lot of situations where I was around a lot of like-minded people in those same times because of the level of how down we were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a hard thing.
Did you struggle? So for me, I remember when I've done it a couple of different times in my life. One of them was, when I was first trying to get off drugs and making this. I used to take a GO train in from my town of Hamilton into Toronto all the time. I was like, great. Turns out, happy I didn't live in Toronto because that distance allowed me to cut myself off and make it a little bit easier. But I had it again later in my life as well. I really struggled with. It's almost like a survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
Of
Yes.
man, and it doesn't have to be a really traumatic, hey, I struggle with drugs. It can be something as hey, you're trying to get healthy.
Yeah.
And everybody that you spend time with just eats poorly and
Doesn't
drinks
work out.
too much and doesn't work out, but you're really trying to make a change for your physical health. It can manifest itself in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And there's this weird guilt of you're doing the right thing,
Right.
but it feels like shit.
And you know what? And it's a crazy thing too, because it's not only when you get in those situations. It's funny because when you start somewhere and you start somewhere with somebody, let's say you guys both start at point A, and somebody starts going a little bit further, somebody starts trying a little different things, starts stepping outside of the box. This person starts thinking naturally, why is it working for them and not for me? You know what I mean? And it's not the fact, they don't look like, oh, well, he's going to the gym. He stopped eating late at night.
Right.
He's not drinking beer. And that's just the terms of like getting getting your body healthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so unfortunately, the thing that I feel will happen, or the thing that I feel that's happened, the person that's sitting back wants to bring you back, whether it's conscious or subconscious. It's not it's not like they're sitting there thinking, "Oh, I want to bring them back." They just want to be in the same situation that's comfortable, where you're still at that same point.
Right. Because they enjoyed that version of you.
Right.
That's their friend.
That's their friend. And then you know what? And then this is also another saying that I use. If one person is drowning, it's a lot easier for two people to drown than one person to pull that person to safety.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I feel like it's a lot easier, which is in human nature, it's for a lot of people, the easier thing is what people choose to do, because
almost always
human nature.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's so it's like you see this person start branching out and start doing better, start changing it, and before you know, instead of being a positive friend, which is very, very hard to do. I don't know if somebody could be a positive friend when they're in a negative.
It's hard.
When they're in a negative space. And they could even want to be.
Yeah.
But the things that they could be saying, like we said, words are powerful, the things that they could be doing. You know what I mean? If I know that you're trying to get better, and let's say we're roommates, you're trying to get better, you're not trying to eat late at night, you're not trying to drink. If I know you're coming home and I'm sitting on the couch with a bunch of beers, I have an extra one open for you and a pizza, like, I might think that I'm being your friend, because I'm like, hey, bro, let's kick it. You just got off work. I got this beer. I have pizza. I know you like it. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if I'm your real friend, I know we've had this conversation that you're trying to do better. You're trying to do something different. So don't enable or make it easier for them, you know? And it's unfortunate, because that's when things get uncomfortable, right? So let's say I'm drinking and I'm eating late and I want to party and everything. You're coming home, you want to do your own thing. I think for a certain amount of time, you could be on that path and I could be on that path, and we could sort of coexist.
Right.
But after a while, something has to give.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
you're gonna be like, bro, you're drinking again, and
there's like a little bit of resentment starts to form. Well, you think you're too good for me? No, I don't think I'm too good, but I don't want to do that. You're like.
And then you find yourself in that same exact situation where it's like, I have to separate myself.
Right.
I have to separate myself from this situation. I have to separate myself from this person in order to continue to keep growing.
Yep.
And it's not easy, and it's hard. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, you build bonds, and whether it's a positive bond or a negative bond, a bond is a bond.
It's a bond.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
A bond is a bond, you know? And so it's, I mean, that's one of the hardest things. That was one of the hardest things in my sobriety. And that was also one of the reasons why I also had to move, just to make it, just to stop that temptation from hopping on the bus at that time, or walking, or hopping in somebody's car and going back to the area that I had to. What?
You said just there, like, you know, you had to move. I mentioned sort of the distance was helpful for me, you know, and using that roommate scenario or family scenario, or however, like the proximity is a problem at times, right? Like,
for sure.
Do you think it's possible? I don't like to use absolutes always, but I'm sure sometimes it is. But generally speaking, do you think it's possible for, you know, if you're making some different healthy life changes, and your community of people isn't on that same page, do you think it's possible to stay there?
I think that, so like you said, I never want to say never, but I would say that it would be very, very difficult, because if the thing that I would have to say that would, only way that it would sort of work is if the person will go back to the roommate scenario. That person would have to respect what you're doing and respect you. You know what I mean? And so so if I know you're coming home, you're not trying to drink, I have to respect that, and I have to respect you and keep that away from you.
So now you're almost now having to change your lifestyle without even wanting to.
Right. So that's another thing that the other person comes across, because it's like, just because you're trying to do better, or like let's say I don't have a problem,
Right.
and I can drink and do whatever
Yeah.
normally. You know what I mean? So then you're gonna start looking at your friend and be like, well, damn, now I got to change my whole lifestyle. So that's why I think it would be hard, because I feel like eventually that human nature, somebody's just gonna be like, I don't know, is it worth it, or
Are we
is
even
something
friends?
gonna
Are we
give?
yeah.
Right, or they're gonna be like, you know what, it's not that serious. I could drink beer in front of
Yeah.
him, or something is gonna
Yeah.
give.
So what
What
about
do you think? Would you?
So yeah, I mean, I've done this on a few. Like, it makes me sound a little bit cold, but I have cut a lot of relationships out, and I often talk about, struggling to find my tribe.
Yes.
Because I'm a bit of an anomaly in a lot of ways, right? Like, we've talked about our sobriety, and like, I still drink,
Yeah.
so I'm not stone cold sober. So, hanging out with that stone cold sober crew,
Right, but
while that's awesome for them, okay, that's a little awkward, right? I go to the gym now, so all my friends who I've done a lot of things for myself
Yeah.
to make myself better, like holistically.
Mm-hmm.
Even my career, all those types of things I've prioritized,
Yeah.
and so it's created space. I also moved across the country, like I've said before, right? So
Right.
I struggle to think that, and this is not a slight on anybody that I've had in my life at any time,
Yeah.
but sometimes there are seasons for relationships.
Absolutely.
And as you start planting seeds for a new life, you're going to grow. If somebody else is not also watering those same seeds, it's not conducive, right?
Right.
Like
That's the perfect word.
You can't grow in an environment that, if you need water and it's a desert,
Yeah.
you're not going to grow.
Right, right.
So unfortunately, those hard decisions have to be made, not out of judgment to somebody else. It's not about what you're doing is wrong.
Right.
It's about what I'm doing is right for me.
Right.
And that's what you have to get content with.
Yeah, that's what you have to get content with, and I'll say another hard parts of going through change, and this is, I think, could also bring people back, is when you do make those cutoffs, and then you have that weird period in between
Yeah.
where you're trying to
got
find
nobody.
you're trying to find your new tribe.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And sometimes, unfortunately, and it's crazy, because I think this helps me and also hurts me, because of the things that I used to do, the drugs that I used to do, things that I used to do. I would keep a lot of stuff to myself. So I personally am okay with being by myself,
Right.
because I was in the past, but I also have to realize that now my life is different. It takes a village. It takes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody plays their part and stuff like that. But I would say that maybe it wasn't as hard for me, because that in between stage wasn't that crazy, because I was okay. I had a dog, and that
Right.
was all I needed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? My dog was happy to see me no matter what I did that day, no matter what time I came home.
Right.
And so that helped me. But I feel like a lot of the thing that could really hinder people and make people slip back is that in between time.
You nailed it, 100%.
What would you suggest to somebody in that in between time, to sort of keep them grounded and finding their new tribe and finding their new, you know what I mean, and finding their new people?
So this one hits home to me, and
Me too.
I've shared this with a bunch of people in my life, and I've heard, I think it was like Alex Hermosi or somebody talked about that, like, transition stage where you've outgrown a certain group, but you haven't grown enough for the next one.
Yeah.
And so you find yourself in this
That's
in-between world, right? And, I've said it before in career stuff, like, leadership can be a lonely place. So can personal development.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And it's a struggle. I'm an extreme extrovert. Like, I love people. I
Yeah.
love people.
Yeah.
The energy of people fills me up.
I'm a very
right?
social person as well, yes.
And so that in-between stage can be so lonely.
Yeah.
And when you're lonely, the easy option is to go back with the familiarity, right? I'm
Easy.
going to go back
Easy.
to those that crew. I'm going to go back to those guys.
They're gonna
You know,
accept
if it
me.
was
I
your
know where they are.
Right. If it was your family, maybe I'm going to go back to that because at least I know like they're going to help me out.
I
a
know
little
what to
bit.
expect.
Like,
I know
what
what
to
to- right.
Right. And so the one thing that I would encourage people on is if you feel that calling in your heart that there's something more for you, and if you think that your current surroundings and relationships aren't conducive to the growth to get you there, you have to be okay being lonely.
Yeah, yeah.
And
You have to be. You have to. You
not
have to be.
forever.
Not forever. No.
Not
no.
for, and that's the thing is that when you're in that in between,
It feels like it's forever.
Yeah, you feel like you're in this
It
canyon
feels like it's
where
forever.
you're like, I'm never gonna. I gave up all
I'm
my friends for
alone,
what?
I have no- right,
For what? I
for
gave
real.
up my. Why did I do this?
That's so
because
real.
you don't see that like it's just right there.
It's just right there on the
It's
other side
just
of the
right
door.
there.
Just
Yes.
keep holding on.
Just
Just
keep
keep on. And you know what? So and this is a good point that you made. I've in life you meet people, you have relationships. Like you said, there's relationships for seasons, right? I think there's a reason that people come into everybody's life.
Yeah.
I don't think that everybody is made to be road dogs forever.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a point that I ran into this person and I learned something from them.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you take that, and so it's like, you know, like you said, if you're gonna grow, you're gonna grow. And unfortunately, if you're growing and somebody is not growing, it's not gonna work.
Right.
So this sort of, and then I feel like this is sort of the way that sort of helps me with these relationships and stuff like that. I think about sometimes when I'm like, man, you know what? I missed that, but I know not to go backwards. I know not that's not, if it was right for me, we would still be doing it. We would
Right.
still be, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so when I have those moments, I think about what was great or what I got out of that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't even have to be something great. It could be something like, oh, you know what? That was a negative experience and that's something I don't want to experience
Right.
again. Or, you know what? That was a great experience and that's something I want to experience again. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so I think that that's sort of how it sort of helps me because I'm still grateful for that person. I'm still
Right.
grateful for what we had.
And it doesn't mean that what you had
Wasn't real.
great at a time.
Exactly. But things change.
Yeah.
People change. The world changes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so for anybody to think that they're going to be in the same place thinking the same thing is not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Is not realistic. And so those are the things that sort of I hold on to. And I was just telling you, like I got a bunch of friends in LA that we've had great times and we've been through and we've rode for each other and we've been in situations where we didn't think we were going to make it out and luckily we did. And you know, I think like, man, why don't we just meet up for a drink or just to chop it up or something
Yeah.
like that? But I'm like, you know what? You can't have one foot in or out. You know what I'm
That's right.
saying? One of my favorite artists, entrepreneurs, Nipsey Hussle, rest in peace. You know what I mean? The whole reason that unfortunately he is not here, and this is just my take on and is because he had one foot in and one foot out.
Right.
You know what I mean? And unfortunately, that negativity caught up to him, and I'm sure that if and I don't want to speak for anybody else, so I don't want to say that, but you know, you just gotta once you're ready to make that transition, you have to make it wholeheartedly
Commit.
100% commit to it. Because if you allow yourself any little sliver, any little window where somebody can try to grab you and take you back, unfortunately, I feel like those are the options people
I agree.
do try.
I
And
agree.
things do try and situations do try.
Yeah.
You know, and so you just have to close that door. And as hard as it is, it's not easy. It's not easy. I've done it time and time, and it's not easy. The first time I did it was not easier or hard than the
it's
last
always
time.
hard. It's always hard because unless you're like a sociopath,
Right.
you care about people,
Right.
And there's a level of rejection that a person feels when you say, "Hey, this relationship can't continue for me."
Right.
But what I would say to people in that space is that you got to decide what's more important. Do you just want to be someone that is cool with, like,
Cool with
everybody loves
everybody.
me, everybody loves me, cool, and you just gave away your whole life so that everybody likes you?
Right.
And that would be a shame
That's-
because life gets and it's not to be selfish. It's not about being selfish, but
Right.
your life becomes so much more full
Yeah.
when you start following the direction you know you're supposed to go into and bringing I listen to this song when I'm working out, and
Yeah.
it talks about like, stop looking for the love of your life and start doing the things you love. When you start doing the things you love, the
everything
love
else-
of your life shows up.
It'll follow because
Right.
you're just doing it right, and that's so real. And that just goes, you keep doing the right thing. Before you know it, you're gonna, and then you also have to be open to it. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
close off these other people, which you see, but then you also have to be open to new relationships,
Yes.
new possibilities,
Yes.
and it may be different. And you know what? The more uncomfortable you feel, the better choice you're probably making.
Right.
Because the more that you're regular, the more that you're in the box, the more that you're just content with things, that's not growing.
Yeah.
That's not growing.
No, it's
So
not.
whenever you get into an awkward situation, you're in an awkward conversation, you might want to look and be like, hey, this is a sign that I am going
What
in
is
the right
this
direction.
teaching me?
Right. And so I think that's the thing. And this is a hard episode. I'm sure that we'll have some people chime in on this episode as well and sort of tell us about how they went through things
Yeah.
and cut things off and
Yes.
everything like that, because this is just a real thing that every single person has to deal with.
This is the messiness of self-improvement.
Improvement, sobriety, whatever you
all
want
of
to
it.
whatever you want to call it.
Yes. So that's great. I would love if for this, we always love to have our listeners and our community like share their thoughts and comment on
Absolutely.
and all that stuff. This episode, I think more than maybe any of them, really as a community could be so beneficial, whether it's the people who, I always think in our community we have people who are really into the self-development and they've kind of been doing it for a little while, so
Right.
this resonates and motivates them to keep going.
Yeah.
And we also have people who are, just entering into it.
Yep.
So a conversation like this with the entire community and all can really be beneficial to all of us. So
I agree, and different walks of life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? For people that are just starting their self improvement, their sobriety missions, to people that have years.
Yes.
Years, and yeah, we would love to hear people weigh in on this and weigh in on how they've dealt with situations and how they will continue to deal with situations, because this is a topic that's not going to change. It's a thing that continues to happen, and
Always.
always.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I hope you guys got something from this episode. And like we were saying, like, comment.
Yes.
Let's keep this dialogue going, because this is the type of messy stuff that Better Than Yesterday is all about, right? Some of these topics are easy. Some of them are really relatable, really intentional. And, I'm hoping that the rest of the community can pick up where we're finishing this conversation
Absolutely.
today.
Absolutely. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening in. Adam Churchman, Oliver Saunders, Better Than Yesterday.